Hi, we're back with Love at First Right and with this excellent theme song, Right by Your Side by the Eurythmics. One of my favorite songs ever. One of my favorite artists too, Dave Stewart and Annie Lennox. But sadly, we have to turn this down. Otherwise, we won't be able to get on with our conversation today. And today on Love at First Right, I want to talk about redemption. First, let me introduce myself. If this is the first time you're watching, my name is Victoria Doherty, and I have historically been a historical thriller writer who is endeavoring to write a great epic romance. And here on Love at First Right, every week we talk about what makes a great love story, what makes a great romance and great romantic characters, not just good enough ones, but we're really aspiring for something that grabs you by the lapels here and draws you into a series and makes you want to stick with these people for book after book. And before we get started on redemption, I do want to introduce Barney, my Boston Terrier, who may be snorting and snoring throughout this. So it's not me, it's him, and he's feeling a little under the weather today. But okay. Redemption. Redemption, I think, is such a powerful element to a love story, to a romance, to really any great story. Um, I I think that most truly great romances have at least one story of redemption in them, if not if not one involving the two main characters, then perhaps um, someone who is affected by those characters, someone who is perhaps inspired by their love, by their relationship, or by his or her love for one of them to do something that is selfless and will change the situation for the better, but at cost to themselves, because um, really they're you really can't redeem yourself unless you give up yourself, unless you give up something and in order to get something much greater in return. And that's a very difficult thing to do. And I think that that's why stories of redemption in love are so powerful, because you are watching a character change and you are watching them them either become better or do better. um, I received just an incredible email from one of my readers last week, and it was about redemption. It's actually what inspired me to talk about this week. Um, a woman wrote to me telling me about how years ago she was in an abusive marriage, and she's about 25 years old, and she had decided that she was going to kill herself. And this would have been her second attempt, and she really meant business this time. She was not going to fail. And it was her birthday, and she baked herself a birthday cake, and she was going to eat her birthday cake and kill herself. But just before she's going to do it, she was absolutely desperate. And in this last ditch effort, she looked up and said to God, who she did not believe in, God, I don't really think you're up there or anywhere for that matter, but if you exist, now would be a really good time to intervene, because I'm at the end of my rope here. And if I don't hear from you, I'm out of here. And she said that like St. Paul, she heard the voice of God, which is pretty incredible. And God told her to go to her husband and confess to him everything that she had ever done to hurt herself or another human being. Now, she did not want to do that. In fact, she wanted to get as far away from her husband as possible. In fact, she was so desperate that she was willing to kill herself to get away. But um, she truly was you know, at the end of the road, and she figured that she had nothing to lose at this point. So she did just that. She went to her husband and she told him everything she'd ever done to hurt herself or another person. And what happened was quite extraordinary. He began to weep and he said, I can't believe that I've driven you to this, that I did this. And from then on, they began to rebuild their marriage. And they've been together for 40 years now, and they truly did rebuild their marriage, and they built intimacy, which I don't think they had prior to that. And she said, so many people have told us to write a book, but she goes, who has the time? And I just thought that was so great. But that was just an incredible and beautiful story, and it made me really reflect upon the role that love has played in redeeming me. I mean, when I fell in love with my husband, there was really nothing that dramatic going on in my life, but certainly my love for him and his love for me has made me a better person. It has made me be more honest with myself and others. It has helped me grow up and helped me love my children better and my family better, my parents and 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 everyone in my life. So, whether these stories of redemption are large or small, I mean, love can heal 1,000 paper cuts, or it can heal, a long stab with a butcher knife. But either way, the redemptive quality of love is incredibly powerful, both in our lives and in the stories that we read. It makes what is going on important. It gives it stakes, and it shows how much someone is willing to do for another person, and how someone can be inspired by another person, by an emotion, to to do something that perhaps, at least on the outset, doesn't seem like it would benefit them, but is truly just selfless. I think one of the sort of most common things that people say about long-term relationships, about marriages, is that the ones that last are the ones where each partner is always giving and is always looking to see how they can make their lover's life better in ways large and small every day. And that once a couple gets in that practice, in that habit, their love only grows and deepens and truly becomes something that is nearly impossible to tear apart. It becomes that strong. One of my favorite love stories that truly center around redemption on a really big scale is not a book at all, but a movie. It's the movie Casablanca. Now, I think one of the reasons why Casablanca is such a classic, and to this day is considered, one of the 100 best films of all time, is, I think, because there are so many stories of redemption going on. Rick, who at the beginning of the story has no longer believes in love. He believes that Elsa, the woman that he gave his heart to, left him for another man because life with him was too hard, because he was on the run from the Nazis. And he says over and over again, I don't stick my neck out for anybody. And yet, throughout the movie, especially once Elsa comes back into his life, time and time again, he begins sticking his neck out, because he learns that Elsa didn't leave him for another man. She didn't leave him because it was too hard with him. She left him for his sake. She did it in an entirely selfless act. For one, she found out that her husband, who was a political dissident and who the Nazis had tried to murder over and over again, was still alive. She had thought he was dead, which was the only reason she had fallen in love with Rick. And she knew that if she told Rick her story, that he would never leave her and he would be captured by the Nazis. So selflessly, she made it look as if she was just leaving him so that he would forget her and move on and save himself. And in the end, Rick gives up Elsa for the greater good of the world. Because, he says the problems of two people don't amount to a hill of beans in this world. And her husband, who finds out that, she had fallen in love with someone else when she thought he was dead, he redeems himself, not only politically because of everything that he's willing to do for the cause of the Allies, but he offers to give her up because he loves her so much and says, tells her that he would understand. And that, and he tells Rick that Rick should take those 2 tickets that he's got out of Casablanca, the only tickets that will save his life, that will save the husband's life, and take Elsa out of there because he loves her so. And the French police officer, who's so crooked, redeems himself in the end by not turning Rick in after Rick kills a Nazi so that Elsa and her husband can leave town without getting arrested and murdered. And he and Rick become great friends in the end. And there are all of these stories, large and small, of these incredibly, wonderfully imperfect human beings who um, who redeem themselves with these gestures during this time of tremendous upheaval where everything was at stake, and more than just love was at stake. So in the end, you just have to breathe this huge sigh after you watch this film, after the credits start coming up, and all you want to do is rewind it and start watching it all over again. I mean, I have to tell you, I have seen that movie so many times, and I could sit down right now and watch it and love it as much as I did the first day. So, or the first time that I saw it. So, as writers, as readers, but especially as writers, I think as we endeavor to write our stories, we have to look for those opportunities for characters large and small to redeem themselves. It is such a connective tissue in a romance, in a love story. It not only creates stakes and brings the lovers together and makes their love story worth something, for heaven's sake, but it has us pondering these things in our own lives. And it I think that in creating stories with these sort of powerful, selfless moments in them, it helps us heal ourselves as well. Heal our lives the way love can heal our lives. I mean, certainly in my life, when I look back at what loving my husband and him loving me, what that's done for me, um, it has healed things that I never even knew needed more attention, and things that I thought I put long behind me. And literature and great stories have done that for me too. And I think that is why great epic stories it gets such a huge fan base, because it goes so far beyond entertainment for the reader. It becomes something that permeates them, that enters their soul, and perhaps heals some of their broken bits. So thank you for joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye.